So first you're going to start off by sketching out the design that you want. So I'm going to create some ruffles, a rabbit in the centre of the choker and the checkered patterns. You can use an eyebrow pencil or whatever makeup pencil you have. Next I'll be taking some oil paints, the Crayolan Supra colours in black and white, and I'll be filling in the checkered shapes. And don't worry about detail too much just yet, you're just going to simply fill in the squares. You can use water-based paints if you wish, it's completely up to you. And a little technique that I like to use when creating straight edges is I like to use a paintbrush with a flat head. This will give me a nice clean straight edge. Continuing on, I'm just creating the rabbit silhouette in the centre of my choker. And for the blue I'm using NYX SFX cream colour, and again you just want to fill in the shapes. Using the same white, I'm just going to apply this onto the blue areas of the badge on the chest, and this is going to create the illusion that the badge is sort of 3D and sticking outwards and that the light is catching onto it. And I also wanted to give the impression that the surface was shiny and plastic. Feel free to set your work if you wish using the SFX setting powder, and you want to go ahead and start adding some shadow. Now I'm using black eyeshadow for this, and I'm just going to simply get a eyeshadow brush and start adding some shade around some areas, and this is going to really make the look pop and give it a really 3D realistic look. So I'm adding the shade where I think the shadow would hit, and you just want to apply a tiny little bit of product onto your brush and slowly and gently feather this outwards. You don't want to add too much on and then realise it's too heavy, so just slowly build your way up. Now I'm just going to take some gems, stones and pearls, and I'm just going to stick this around the rabbit, and you can get your hands on these very cheaply and easily from any craft store, and I feel like this is going to add a hint of life to the look. Moving on to the ruffles, now I'm going to be taking some water-based paints. I'll be taking the MAC Chroma Cake in Marine Ultra and the Benai Magi Cake in white, and I'm just going to mix the two together to create this baby blue. So I'm just going to go ahead with my paintbrush and create a wiggly line around the choker, kind of like a jigsaw shape. Now I'm just taking a small eyeshadow brush and I'm just going to add some blue shadow where I think the shade would sit. So where the rounded edges are on the piece, that's where you want to add the shadow, because that's where the dips in the ruffles are. So you just want to gently apply the product, not too much once again, and slowly build your way up. Really work in the product, use back and forth brush stroke motions until you get the effect you want. Once you're happy with the sort of base shade that you've placed, you then want to go ahead and add some black. And you don't want to add too much black because again you can ruin the piece and make it look a little bit too 2D, and you just want to add a little hint, and you can use an angled brush as well, which will really help you get into the small areas. And again you just want to feather out the product and get a nice even blend. So as you can see, it takes a while to build up, but once it starts to build, then you will start to see it come to life. And once you're happy with that, you can then go ahead and start adding a dark blue behind the round parts of the ruffles. It's really difficult to explain, I think it's more of a watch and learn type thing, but basically I'm creating the underneath of the ruffles, so it looks as if they are actually there, if that makes any sense. Now let's just take a moment and look between the left and the right side and how much of a difference it makes just from adding some shadow. And as you can see here, I'm just adding the underneath of the ruffles using the same dark blue. So now, very simple, very easy, we're going to trick the eye even more by adding some white to the raised areas of the ruffles. This is going to create the illusion that they're really popping out, so you want to add the highlights in the most highest points of the ruffles. So now that we have the ruffles looking really realistic and 3D, what about the rest of it? So you want to add some shadow underneath the ruffles, so this is going to make it look as if it's actually sat on your neck rather than just painted on. So this is going to really bring the whole thing together and create the really realistic look that you're going for. Taking some eyeshadow and an eyeshadow brush, I'm just going to very gently add some black underneath the ruffles, and you're just going to use some small circular motions, and you want to get the softest blend as you possibly can. You don't want any patchiness, any areas that are more darker than others. You want this to be nice and even throughout. A small little bit of product will go a long way. I'm using a smaller brush as it goes towards the edges of the ruffles, and I'm using a bigger brush as it goes away from the edges, and this is going to give a nice blend between the deeper areas and the more diffused areas. We're now finally moving on to the face, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide those eyebrows as much as possible by gluing them down, and I'm just going to take some NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation, and I'm just going to evenly apply this to my skin. As you can see, I've already got some random sketches on my face. If I were you, I'd just ignore them because my design changed halfway through anyway, but feel free to go ahead and add some sketching before you start doing the design. So as you can see, one eye has already magically appeared, but anyway, I'm going to be using the NYX SFX Cream Colour in black, and I'm just going to apply this to only the top half of my lips. And I'm using the NYX Epic Ink Liner, and I'm just creating some swirls coming from the sides of my mouth. And the swirls were very heavily, of course, inspired by Tim Burton. I'm then going to apply some deep red to the bottom half of my lips. Now I'm just applying white around my mouth to create this clowny-like weird shape, and you probably should have done this before you put the swirls down and then put the swirls after. I just made it a bit difficult for myself, but anyway, go ahead and do that, and then you want to go ahead and outline the shape as well. For the nose, I was just going to create a typical red clown nose, but then I decided I'm going to do this pink love hearty shape because this represents the Cheshire Cat's nose. So I didn't get these on camera because it managed to die without me realising, but anyway, what I did for the eyelids is I took some NYX SFX cream colours in blue and white and mixed the two together to create this baby blue, and I just went ahead and applied this to my eyelids and above my brows as well. And I'm going to create some swirly eyebrows that are really arched using the Epic Ink Liner. Just to make the eyebrows, I guess you could call them, pop up even more, I decided to add some white SFX cream colour underneath that to sort of give it a bit more life and definition. Next, I'm just going to line my waterline, and then I'm going to go in with the NYX Vivid Bright Liquid Eyeliner, and I'm just going to create some lines coming from my eyes, and at the ends of the lines I'm going to create some playing card shapes. So if you have a shaved side, you can do this too, but I'm basically using the NYX SFX cream colours, and I'm just going to paint in some mushrooms on the side of my head. And to add some details, I'm using some white eyeliner and some eyeshadows as well to give it some shading and life. I'm just adding a little bit of detail to the nose by outlining it, and then you want to go ahead and apply some big dramatic eyelashes. I'm using the NYX Wicked Lashes in Drama Queen. I then just got myself a real set of playing cards, some hot glue and a hot glue gun, and assembled them together to create a mini top hat. To get the top hat to stay on my head, I used a bunch of hair grips and just literally gripped it in place, but if you're wanting to wear this top hat more long term, say on a night out or something, you may want to stick it to a headband so it's a lot more comfortable.